Thanks for being on, everybody. Of course, I'm Bill Crespo with Espresso Agent, and we're going to have a special guest, friend of mine, also someone that I highly respect in the field of psychology. And Doc Alley has been at this job for a very long time. She's been working with Olympic athletes. She's been working with my daughter at times, or at least a couple of my daughters. And but she's pioneered mental training in the sports. And I called her because of her expertise. She's written several books, Taming the Beast, The Athletic Warrior, The Leadership Warrior. And there's a lot of things going on in our world to help us get better. So Doc Alley Arnold, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Bill. I'm looking forward to working with you guys.
Yeah, this is going to be great. And so we've got people on live, and then we're going to record this, and people are going to be able to see it again. So
excellent.
First of all, let's talk a little bit about your background so people get to know a little bit about you and how you got to do all this stuff with the athletes and working on head games with the kids. So talk to me a little bit about your background so everybody gets to know you.
Sure. So I spent most of my life as a gymnast, and I was a high-level gymnast and got a college scholarship. But I was always interested in the mind and the power of the mind. And so I have a PhD in clinical psychology, and starting in 1998, I started working for our USA Olympic gymnastics team. And since then, I've worked with all kinds of elite and Olympic and professional athletes on training your mind to perform your best when the pressure is at its highest. And since then, I've also transferred some of these mental training programs that I've used with elite athletes to business. I've worked with Boeing and American Express and worked with real estate agents, all on really the same principles. It's how do you get to your perfect mental state to perform your best in sales or in life, right, when maybe you don't feel like it, or maybe you have a lot of self-doubt, or how do you do that on a consistent basis? So that's what I do. I develop training programs to work with athletes and anyone who wants to perform at the elite level.
Yeah, and which is really interesting because I said, hey, you've got to talk about this issue that I think that a lot of the agents are having. And when I read about it, I got to go to the expert about this imposter syndrome, this feeling that we're not good enough. And I know with athletes, they talk about this transformation that has to take place. Tell us a little bit about how that works. I mean, why do we not feel that we're capable of doing things sometimes?
Well, I mean, we all have self-doubt. I think, that's part of the human condition is we doubt ourselves, or we compare ourselves to others, or we even compare ourselves to ourselves and how we did in the past. And part of this, and I hate to get a little bit of biology going, but I'm going to do a little section on biology. Part of it is like your brain chemistry and how your neural pathways work. Like when you have a great experience, your brain fires a pathway and then it fires chemicals. And when you have negative thoughts, or you're not feeling great about yourself that day, or you're exhausted, or you have tons of stressors going on in your life with your kids or finances, then your brain's going to fire another direction and release other chemicals. And so a lot of what we have to do is when we find ourselves in a negative mindset and you're feeling it in your body, you're feeling kind of crappy today or whatever, we have to really work to change it so that our brain and the chemicals are firing in a great way where not only we feel good, but our clients feel that energy. Our clients feel where you're at, whether it be conscious or unconscious. And so it's so important that when we approach our clients, or we approach, a deal or something that, a house that we want to sell, that we're really in that great mental state bubble.
Yeah, which we now, not just say that, we could also repel people because we're on the other state, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because again, I think people feel where we're at. We all know this from just our experiences in life. You can feel when someone walks up to you, you either feel like, yeah, I like this person. I like their vibe. We even use that language, like they have a great vibe. Or we feel disconnected and not on the same wavelength with them, or we like, oh, that person feels a little funky. And so one of the things that I work with athletes and agents on is, how do you not let the externals of your life totally control where you're at and how you're feeling every day. Because when you allow your mood to be controlled by, you know, the weather or what your kids did or that deal that you made or that deal that you lost, then you're always kind of up and down. So we want to work on creating the perfect mental state and having it be much more in our control than just being blown by the wind. Now, of course, you're going to feel better when good things happen. I'm not saying you're not, but especially when bad things happen, how can you kind of flip the switch? Just like an elite athlete, like they're having a bad day and you still need to perform your best for that Olympic trial. And it's no different every day that you're, you know, going out to make a sale or to, you know, do something with your business.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Just recently, I had some clients that went through some massive money loss. Yeah. So now you've lost all this money and now you got to perform. So give us some tips, because, you know, we're all going through, we all have kids, we got relationships, but it's still showtime.
Yeah.
What are some of the steps you can give us, ideas, and how we can get that state back?
Well, I think I'd like to talk about like two different things. One thing is, we all say we want to be great, but I like for the people and the athletes I work with to first come up with their decision on who they are when they're in their ideal mental state. So it's like, what is your ideal mental state when you're calling on a client? Right. And so that's the first thing I like them to do, is come up with 3 statements, which are mostly just I am statements, like I am confident, I am warm, I am knowledgeable. Like really thinking like, who do you want to be as an agent? You know, and that's the first thing I do with any athlete, by the way. We have to do what's called creating the vision. And it might seem boring or stupid, but so many athletes think, oh, I want to be a great athlete, but what is that? You know, so it's like, I am confident, I am aggressive, I am positive. That might be more for an athlete than an agent. But so I think the first step is making the decision by creating the 3 words that are your ideal mental state. And I would say that everyone that's listening, it's really good to write them down. What are your 3 words? And to really put them somewhere you see them all the time, where you can virtually like breathe them in. I am this, I am that. Again, remember, our goal is to fire your brain on a neural pathway that then is going to release some good feel-good chemicals like serotonin, like dopamine, that are going to make you feel like that person even on a bad day. So the first step is just creating that mental state. And then I want to talk a little bit about how to get there, how to get into that mental state.
So let me go back. If we have the imposter syndrome, that first step is huge, because you don't believe in yourself. You don't think you're worthy. So creating the mindset for someone who is doubting their capability, they're brand new in the business. Let's say they're brand spanking new, and there's a top producer. He's already there. How do I get there? I can't be that person, but I still got to talk to someone as if I've been doing this for a long time. How do I stop feeling like I'm not that person yet? And have it, because it's going to affect, you're going to give off that I'm new. I mean, you don't have to know everything, but you do have to act like you know something.
Yes. And some of it is actor skills, you know, and definitely with the athletes I work with, I have athletes coming to me and saying, you know, I don't feel confident going into this competition or this game. And you do need to say, well, you got to act it. You do have to act it at times. So I want to do 2 things with what you said. Number 1, I want everyone to recognize that you all have your strengths and you all have your gifts. And even if you feel like you're just entering the field of being an agent, you have gifts that were in other careers and other lifetimes and in college. And so when you create your I ams, it really is looking at, you know, what are my strengths as I walk up to this person? Because even if, again, selling and real estate is so much about relationship. And so everyone has their relationship skills. So when you feel insecure, like, oh, you know, I don't have as much experience, or I just lost this deal and I'm not a top producer, I think it's important to kind of really look at, okay, what is your unique strength and what is your unique gift? And it doesn't have to be in real estate. It could be like, I am warm, I am compassionate, and I am enthusiastic. Like those three qualities are what attracts people. And really, when you're looking at being a great agent, you're looking at being a great attractor. You're wanting people to be attracted to you and what you have to say and how you connect with them and their dreams for their great next home or office. So that's one thing that's so important that I want people to realize that are listening, that it is drawing on your strengths from the past.
Right. So you really have to believe in yourself. Like I always tell people that you may be the best person for that person at that moment in time in their life because you understand their situation better than anybody else. You may know nothing about real estate, but you've been through something personally that they've been through, or that you can listen to them better.
Yeah. I mean, all of this is about connecting and listening. And we're all good at that, connecting and listening and helping like hear what their dream is. And then thinking how this residence, you're kind of painting a picture and telling a story where how can this residence, you know, fulfill their dream of sitting out by the fire at night, drinking that glass of wine. Yeah, so you're kind of selling the story, which is it's another, when I do like my 6-week training program for real estate agents, that's another part of our training is how to build the story because people connect to stories. But that's, again, a different topic. What I want to talk about is the tool to get into that perfect mental state.
Got it.
And because it is a tool, just like a drill that athletes have to do. And so when you decide on your I ams, every day, either on your drive to meet a client or even on your walk to connect with that client, I want you to do 3 steps. And these are 3 steps to get into that perfect ideal mental state for an athlete or for an agent. So the 3 steps that I want to give you today for this particular tool is using your breathing, brain, and body language. Because that is how you create anything. How you create anything is usually using your breathing, brain, and body. Your breathing is about your feelings. So as you breathe, you're breathing in the feelings of your 3 words. So if one of your words is confident, you're kind of breathing in confidence. If one of your word is connector, that you're a great connector and you want to be a great connector or listener, you're kind of breathing in connector. So you're breathing in the feeling flavor of that perfect mental state. Then I would want everyone to create a statement that is kind of like your statement that you say to yourself as you, again, drive to meet a client, approach a client, pick up your phone to make a phone call. So that statement can be like, I've got this, or just connect now, or
I'm the best.
I'm the best. It's really whatever statement helps to bring you and fire your brain into that mental state.
You know, you just said something to me before I started prospecting in the morning. It's just like an anchor, right? We're talking about like an anchor exercise.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? So I used to play Tina Turner in the morning, and she was the only person in the morning that told me I was the best. I was simply the best.
I love that.
Better than all the rest.
You're better than all the rest.
Woo-hoo, I started prospecting, and that got me in a state. Now that you're saying that, I'm going, okay, that did make sense.
Yes. All of this is about creating a state. And I love the idea of using music. And I think coming up with your song that puts you into that ideal mental state is awesome. So you do your breath, you do your statement, you play your song, and then I say breathing, brain, and body. Then you change your body language. I mean, you put on your face, you change your posture, you put your shoulders back, head up, smile, whatever you need to do. Now, again, some of this sounds totally corny. I have to admit, it's like you're looking in the mirror. It's like Stuart Smalley on Saturday Night Live or something like, or in American Beauty, Annette Bening is like, I'm going to sell a house today. I'm going to sell a house today, you know, but it's so important that you create the state, don't wait. Like, don't wait for something great to happen for you to feel amazing. Use your breathing, your song, your statement, and your face to get into that ideal mental state. And then you're going to make something great happen, not just wait for it to happen and then you feel great. And so, you know, if I was to give like a first tool when I'm working with athletes and when I'm working with agents, it's first, let's decide who you want to be. And then let's work your 3 steps, your breathing, brain, your body, and your song to help you get there. And then your brain is going to be firing and you're going to feel so much better.
So, okay, so you said something, who you want to be. A lot of people don't know who they want. They got into real estate. They could have been ripped from a job. They lost their job and this is the only thing they can do. Now, who do I want to be? I don't, you know, like if you come from a family that didn't have a lot of money and now you're getting commission of $5, $10, $15, $20,000, you can almost imagine, I can imagine you being that. So how do you know what you want to be? Not everybody knows how to get there. They just got into license and now they're in this business, but they always talk about, they don't know what their why is. And I think sometimes it doesn't mean you got to solve world hunger, but you know what I'm saying? How do you find out what you want to be?
I think one way is to do some research. Mm-hmm. And I know that I learn so much by watching other people, and I see what I like about what they do, what I don't like about what they do. You know, obviously, especially if you're new in the field, you want to do your research and see like, what are the best doing? How are they speaking? How do I feel when I watch them on YouTube or when I meet with them? You know, if you're obviously with a bunch of agents, you can, you know, talk to top producers and see like, do I like it? Do I not like it? And I would totally make a list of things that you like and that you feel connected to in other people that are other agents, and things that you don't want to do. So that's one thing, is to look external to decide who you want to be. The other thing is, again, and I believe that people are they're brilliant and you're resourceful. So I would look at times in your life when you felt great. So I would look external and I would look internal, like a time in your life when you were successful. And you can define success however you want. It might be that you were successful in sports when you were younger, or it might be that you were just successful and you felt great when you were hanging out with your buddies and you really felt connected. And I would look inside and say, what do I want to take from that situation and still use in my life as a producer or as an agent? Because I think, again, you have the tools you need. You have them inside of you, and either someone else can help to bring them out, or you can kind of dig into your past and bring them out. So that's one way to decide who you want to be.
Mm-hmm. What about, I want to talk about 2 things: how to get out of slumps and how accountability is so important to keeping this thing going, you know? Because, so I hear this about coaching at times. I don't like my last coach because he was just being friends. And some people really want direct talk about what they need. And so where does accountability come in, and how do you get out of a slump? Mm-hmm. I think those are 2 things that happen with us.
Well, accountability is so important. And whether you like hire a coach like me that holds you accountable, gives you homework, checks in. I mean, obviously, if you're going to work with a coach, you have to have a coach that matches your style. And if you feel like I'm a person who needs external accountability. Right. You know, I was an athlete my whole life, so I did things to please my coaches. And even though I was motivated internally, I was the kind of athlete that needed like that deadline of a competition to kind of push myself. So it's about knowing that most of us are externally motivated where we need that accountability. So it's setting that up for yourself. And whether that be working with a coach or whether that be setting that up with another, person on your team, like however you do that, set yourself up for success by having those people hold you accountable. And there's been tons of research that show that when you have accountability, you reach your goal. And the percentages increase more and more, that when you state your goal to another person, it increases by like 60%. Then when you actually have that person hold you accountable, it increases your chances of making your goal to 80%. So that's why when you have a coach or even have a teammate holding you accountable, it really, really helps you. So take the time to set that up, and you will find that your payoff to reach your goal is so much more.
I'm laughing because there's not a lot of people that go, I just can't wait for someone to just, the athletes, you're an athlete. My daughter's an athlete. I mean, they're so used to that. We're not used to someone going, hey, you told me, or you know how it is when the girls cry and they're doing all this stuff. And it's like you go to the gym one day, the coach was on some people, but, I like that myself, and that's my style, but not everybody wants that, but they need it.
Yeah.
They need it.
They do need it. And, sometimes, so I love the word discipline. I have a love-hate relationship, of course, like we all do with the word discipline. And discipline is doing what you should do, when you should do it, whether you like it or not. And I used to have a coach that would say that to me all the time. He'd say, Allie, discipline is doing what you should do, when you should do it, whether you like it or not. And it's hard. It's hard to be disciplined. Right. And that's why it's nice to have a coach in place or have a team in place that will hold you accountable. Because if you have big goals, it's going to take big effort and big discipline. Yeah. So, again, you want to set that up for yourself so that you are held accountable as much as possible, because it really does make all the difference in the world.
So it's almost like an equation. I mean, that's part of the equation. Mm-hmm. If you leave that out, what happens? I mean, really?
I mean, some people can do it on their own, and I do want to say that they can. But I think for everyone, that equation is what sets you up for success and not failure. And if you've tried it before and you set these big goals but then never make it, then I think setting yourself up with a coach or with a teammate is super, super important. A lot of times I'll work with a college team, let's say, and my college team will set what I call an extraordinary goal. And that goal is to win NCAAs. And I'll say, okay, extraordinary. Just look at that word, extraordinary. So extraordinary goals are going to take an extraordinary effort. And so are you willing to do what it takes to do that extraordinary effort? And how can having someone hold you accountable really help you do that? How can having someone hold you accountable, like, did you do your drill to get into your ideal mental state every day? Like every day, did you take 2 minutes to play your song and do your breathing, your mantra, or your statement, and your face? Like, did you do that to get your brain firing on the right neural pathway? And again, having someone that can be that mirror will take your work to the next level.
Wow. I could talk forever, this, but let me talk about decision points. A client will come in and they know they're supposed to be doing something, and they take the other route. They're at the decision point where they have to prospect, or they're going to have to do something that they know is going to be important to their business, and they default to a pattern that needs to be broken. How do we change? What's the best way of changing patterns from this person that wasn't as productive but now has this extraordinary goal or bigger goal? Now we have to change a pattern. How do we change patterns? When you're at that point where you can I'll just stay home, or I will go to work late, and not achieve the goal, because now you're falling behind. Now you got to kick yourself back in, or you now have to look at yourself and going, I'm behind. I'm not going to be able to make it. So, and that puts you in that slump.
Yeah, talking about slump. We still want to talk about how to get out of slumps for sure. I don't want to let that drive. But this is part of the same thing. You're at that decision point, whether you're going to go this way and just like surf the internet, or whether you're going to go this way and make those prospecting calls. And you're right, that is like a decision point. What usually fuels people the most is not their brain, but their heart. So when you're at that decision point, what I think is most effective is what you referred to earlier, which is your why. And your why is going to be like the reason that you want to stay disciplined. And you want that reason to be very specific, and again, very emotional as you can. Because again, let's say you're a runner and you're having to get up and run in the snow. You're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to get back into bed. But when you can say, I want to go running because I want to, run this race in 2 weeks, and that's your why, and you're moving towards that race, then the heart overrides the mind. And that is so important to understand. And I'm going to say that again because it's so powerful. Your heart overrides your mind. I mean, think about running a marathon. You're running a marathon and your brain is saying, oh my God, this sucks so bad. I feel like I'm going to die. I just want to get in my car and drive to the end where the free beer and food is. That's your brain saying.
Definitely.
But when you're running a marathon for like breast cancer and your friend, has breast cancer, then even though your brain is saying, stop, 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 your heart is saying, heck no. I'm doing this for my friend with breast cancer. And so your heart is stronger than your mind. And so I think as an agent, you need to be very clear on why you get up and do this every day. And you have to put it somewhere visual. Like, let's say you're doing this for your son. You have to put it on your computer screen for, Jason.
Right.
Somewhere where your why is present. And then in that moment where you are at the crossroads, you at least, before you choose to surf the internet and read, that article of what's going on with Beyonce and Jay-Z or whatever.
Right.
You can take that second to take a deep breath and say your why. Take a deep breath and be like, for Jason. And then if you still decide to go the route of the non-productivity or the not making that call, then do that for 10 minutes and then return,
Yeah.
Let's say return to the breath and the why. Take a deep breath and again say for Jason 10 minutes later and see if you still go down that path.
Gosh, that's great. I want to remind people that you can ask questions. If someone has a question for you, and this is back to getting us back on the slump. He says, I'm in a slump now. I told my friends this big goal that I want, and now I'm embarrassed. How do you handle that?
Well, first of all, it's super important to not be too hard on yourself. And to not judge yourself as harshly as you might be judging yourself. Like right now, it sounds like you're mad at yourself. You feel embarrassed. You couldn't make this big goal. Well, let me tell you, all your friends have been in the same position. So all your friends have had these big goals and then not lived up to them in some way or another. So the first thing I want you to do is forgive yourself and quit beating yourself up. The second thing I want you to do, though, is to take action. So first, you're going to forgive yourself and you're going to say, you know what, this isn't even about my friends. This is about me forgiving me. But now I have the opportunity to and take action. So I see all adversity as opportunity. And again, when I work with my agents, it's like, okay, here we are, you're in a slump. This is your adversity. All right, how are we going to use this as an opportunity to make you better? What can we learn from this slump? What happened? What did you do? And now how can we do something different that's going to start you moving on another path? Now, it might be something super small. Because one thing about kind of turning this snowball around is just stopping it long enough that we can like get it going in a different direction. So it could be super small, like instead of going back to bed when your alarm goes off, you get up. So I want you to look at what are some small steps you can do to learn from this adversity and use it to propel you to an even better space.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So I think Jonathan got the message there. Jonathan, tell me if that works for you. So let's go back to what you wanted. Make sure that we cover what you wanted to cover on getting out of slumps, because this is kind of similar. This is basically you just take the same. You said something that's really incredible. I just want to just go back to the heart overrides your mind. I mean, that just stuck in my head. Unbelievable, because to me as a coach, when I hear the stories, the recession, some people are still hurt by the recession. Now I'm in real estate and a couple deals fell through. And now what do I tell my wife? What do I tell my kids? How do I get out of this thing? Your mind is like totally out of control. But you've got to get back in the center and get that drive that you have for why you were doing what you were doing. And all the tools. It's like when the girls jump off of the beam, they fall off the beam. I always say, gosh, guys, you understand that gymnasts have to get back on. They don't get to go, well, I'm taking off for the rest of the day. I'll be drinking. No, they've got to jump on that beam. We're not jumping back on the beam. We're letting the whole day take us down.
Right.
And it's that. And from a coaching standpoint, I'm going, guys, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and let's get back on track. So how do we do that effectively?
Well, first of all, you do have to feel your feelings. I don't want to make, turn us into robots, or sometimes you feel like crap.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You totally put all these hours into this deal and the deal fell through. You're not, Buddha or Gandhi, or, you're going to feel bad. So I say, allow yourself to feel bad for a certain period of time. And then you really take it, and we talk about use everything as fuel. So I would then take that moment to write down what's wrong, or what happened, what didn't work, and then how I can do something different that's going to make me, again, better next time. We really want to look at there's no such thing as failure, and every adversity makes me better. And so that's too, thinking about Jonathan, really looking at like what's not working, and then what do I need to do to use that as fuel to make me better. And I think that's really important. I have this thing that I talk about called relentless optimism. And I love that, because it's like, when things just suck, how can you even use humor to say, okay, that was so bad and that sucked so bad. And again, how can I have relentless optimism, and how can I train my mind to take me back in that place where I'm back and I'm fired up and I'm kind of turning that slump around through little baby steps to start to get that snowball rolling the other direction.
So this is, so we went from that person. Now here's another person in sales. I'm kind of like plateauing. There's no real drive. I've made my money. Things are going good. And now, they kind of reach this thing, and then they, where do I go from here? How do I now, or an athlete I made it. I'm number one. And then they start losing that drive. So there's top producers out there that are doing well. Everything's fine. World's great. And they lose that impact, or they want to change the direction. How do you keep something going in a different place? I mean, maybe it's no longer about money. Maybe it's no longer about production. Now it's something else. How do we keep moving?
Well, I hate to get really deep on you, but I'm going to get a little bit deep here.
Go ahead. You can get deep.
We're going to get deep.
Okay.
I think it's continuing to look at how I want to be better, and what is the legacy that I want to leave on a very crazy planet, in a very crazy world right now. And, I see our jobs, as an agent, it's way more than just selling a property. It really is about helping people feel fulfilled in their life and helping them create peace and helping them create joy. So whenever you feel like tapped out or maxed out, whether it be, I made my money or whatever, it still is like, okay, how can I help people at an even greater level? And you're kind of looking at how can I make impact on a world that, I mean, I think people are suffering. Like, I think people are angry and depressed, and maybe you're feeling this, the agents that are watching this, it's hard. It's a very hard, driven life that we've created. So I do think you have to look outside the box and think, okay, how am I really making a difference? How am I making a kid smile? How am I making a new husband and wife create, some kind of wonderful home? So again, you need to look kind of beyond the bank. And sometimes I talk about that, beyond the bank, to really look at what feels meaningful to you and how you're going to leave even a bigger legacy, because the planet needs you. The planet is a mess.
No doubt about that. That's for sure.
People are not in a good place.
I like beyond the bank. I love that phrase. So when you look at the athletes that you've seen that are superstars, and what makes a top producer? What are the elements of being that person? What's the characteristics of those people?
I would say that there's a couple. There's definitely studies that show how important grit is, and where before people really viewed talent as the most important thing, now we're seeing that grit. And I think that grit word and discipline are really, close. And grit is being able to continue to push forward, to have that relentless optimism, to have where you see every failure as an opportunity to make you better, to learn from it. And you continue to move forward in that way. And there's been tons of studies that show that athletes that have been the grittiest have actually been the most successful. Now, talent doesn't hurt either, but to show that resilience and that relentless optimism is really important. The other thing I think is important for top athletes is to love what you do. And it's hard to see a really successful athlete who doesn't love their game. I mean, look at one of the biggest comebacks, talk about comebacks, was Tiger Woods this year. I mean, if that isn't inspiring to everyone, and he came back because he continued to have grit. He didn't let people totally push him down. He continued to believe in himself. He had relentless optimism, and he loves the game. And so I think to be a top producer, not only do you want to have belief and grit, but you gotta love the game and know why you're doing it beyond the bank.
Yeah, I love that. So this is great. I think we need to bring you back and talk more, because I always love talking to you. And so let's talk about, if someone needs to get a hold of you, also you got a couple courses that we want to talk about. So talk about what you're doing in this field of mental toughness for salespeople and just people in general.
Well, I do a ton of work in mental toughness for athletes and for sales and for parents. Actually, I'm releasing a new product called Parent Bubble that's about not losing your cool as a parent, because I feel like parenting is so hard and a lot of parents find themselves losing it and yelling. And so I'm doing a course for parents, and that's coming up.
Was this because my daughter called you?
No.
Okay, just wondering.
No. For agents, I do a 6-session individual coaching program where you're accountable to me, and we do 6 sessions together where we're covering a lot of different mental toughness tools and drills to help you kind of step into the next level as an agent and as a salesperson. And it's very drill and tool oriented. It's just like training your mind like the mind of an elite athlete. Yeah. So I do a 6-session program for agents that's been really fun, and they've really improved their sales and not to mention their lives from those programs.
I mean, I can see this. So, and how could they get a hold of you? Where's the best place to get a hold of you?
I think the best way is to email at it's docali, DOCALI at headgamesworld.com. It's, we could put it in the chat maybe.
Yep.
HEADGAMES world.com, or you can go to headgamesworld.com and email me through there too. But that's a great way to get a hold of me. And I would love to hear what you're struggling with. You know, if you're listening to this live or if you're listening to the recording, I would love to hear your struggles and be able to help you with some of the tools that I work with athletes and
That'd
sales.
be great. And Jonathan asked about books. You have a couple books that you've written, but he said, what are some of the mental toughness books that you recommend?
I have a book called The Leadership Warrior that I think is a great tool that you can use. I think in terms of mental toughness, there's a classic book called Mental Toughness for Sport, which is a book by Jim Loehr. It's Loehr. So I think that's a great book too in terms of mental toughness and leadership. That's
awesome. So thank you. This has been great.
You're welcome. It's been great.
I hope for everybody that's with Espresso, that's watching and listening, recording, thanks for being on. We're going to definitely bring Doc Ali back, and I've always enjoyed talking to you over the years. And for those of you that want to get more information, and maybe you can go into my Facebook page, the Prospecting Locker Room. You can go on there and get yourself on the group, and we can ask questions there. Maybe we can bring Doc Ali on that so she can kind of ask questions or answer questions there. So, Miss Ali, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on today. And thanks to everybody who's been on for this time. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.